Hello, everyone. And today is an amazing day because I have an amazing speaker for you to introduce. And this month, we're talking in the membership about forgiveness. It is extremely important toward other people, but the most important is towards ourselves. So I would love to introduce you to Dr. Ani Kalayjian, and she is amazing. She is a board certified expert in traumatic stress, fellow of the New York Academy of Medicine, fellow of the American Psychological Association, ambassador for the I can never can read
Psychi,
this. Yeah,
Psychi,
Psych Honor
Psychi.
Society. Then the professor of psychology and Teachers College in Columbia University. Then president of Association for Trauma Outreach and Prevention. And then United Nations representative. And of course, she has an amazing book that you just can go and purchase right now on Amazon. It's called Forget Me Not, 7 Steps for Healing Our Body, Mind, Spirit, and Mother Earth. So
There.
welcome to this amazing membership. Yay, this is the book. So everybody just go and get the book now. And please tell me a little bit about yourself and your amazing, very, very heartwarming story in your life.
Oh, thank you so much. This is such an honor, Lolita. I really appreciate it. And we don't get enough chance to talk and discuss about the important concept of forgiveness. Of course, everyone says, well, we have it in all the religious books. We even have it in the Quran and in Judaism, in Jainism, in Hinduism, in Christianity, everywhere. But when it comes to the practice, Lolita, it's the hardest thing. And even like Gandhi says, the weak cannot forgive, only the strong that can forgive. We don't like saying weak or strong so that because when you don't have the tools, Lolita, you're not going to know how to do it. It's not just saying, talking about it. It's like driving. You keep talking about driving, but you don't get to read the instructions, practice for 6 months, have a permit, and then you can say, okay, I'm a driver. Now I can actually use the vehicle without hurting myself and without hurting others. So emotions are just like vehicles. They can destroy people and they can uplift people like a parachute. So we need to know which kind of thoughts and which kind of concepts are good for our mental, spiritual, and in ecology as well. You know, every time we think of something negative, it will affect not just us. First of all, let me tell you, if you're thinking and experiencing extreme like rage, anger, and the disappointment to a severe level, it's like domino effect. The brain cells burning. Then it goes to your thyroid. It affects the thyroid. Then it goes to the heart. Blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, respiration goes up, then it goes to the digestive system. The acid is increased when we have negative emotions, and the acid gives us all kinds of digestive problems, irritable bowel syndrome, gas, and ups and downs and diarrheas, all kinds of bloated feelings. And then it goes into the muscles, then it goes into the skin, it goes into eyesight. There's 15 organs that it affects, our negative emotions. And then we say, why is my back hurting? I didn't carry anything heavy. 22-year-olds coming to session saying, oh, I just came from the chiropractor, my back. And I'm like looking at them and saying, why is your back hurting at 22? Can you please tell me? Oh, I'm stressed out and I'm this and that. So learning strategies to maneuver, just like a GPS. If you're going towards the negative direction, what does GPS say? Redirecting, recalculating, right? We need to have that inner clock like the GPS. So when we feel that negative emotions are coming up, we know how to maneuver it, direct it like the GPS. Oh, I'm going the wrong direction. There's a big hole in the sidewalk. Do I go and fall in it? Maybe the first day, if I'm not mindful, and I was maybe texting and I wasn't watching where I'm going, then I would fall. But the second time, if I fall, it would be my mistake, not the hole, because it was there. And I need to be mindful about where I'm going, where I'm putting myself into. So really being mindful changes the course of direction so we don't fall into the holes of life. So what we have is a handout where we help people to improve their emotional intelligence. So because forgiveness is very much attached to our emotions. If our anxiety, frustration, disappointment is too high from that person who did something wrong to us, it's going to be very challenging to forgive them. You know what? One of my clients, who's a 23-year-old man, came to the session and said, my girlfriend dumped me. I'm going to go and slash all her tires. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And what is that going to do for your heartbreak? Nothing. But maybe it's going to teach her how much pain hurts. I'm going to show her more pain. And I said, what if she comes and slashes your tires? What happens then? Oh, wait, I didn't think about that. Because violence is going to get more violence. Like Martin Luther King says, we cannot keep hurting one another because he hurt me, I'm going to hurt her. She hurt me, I'm going to hurt the other. And it never stops. And that's why at Meaningful World, where we provide humanitarian relief missions to voluntarily to 50 countries and 26 states in USA. And let me show you, the latest book is the combination of these 50 countries and lessons that we learned from the 50 countries and 26 states, and photos. It's a coffee table, very light photos of different countries that we traveled, poems, descriptions of what these people are going through around the world. It's all photos and light poetry, etc. We call it coffee table book. And in this book, we have indicated how much suffering is going on around the world. And why? Because lack of forgiveness. Some countries, Lolita, you're not going to believe, they say, don't use the F word. They're not talking about the 4-letter word we think, like the curse. They're talking about forgiveness not because they are still in hatred, is because the violence is continuing, like in Palestine, where they're surrounded with violence all the time. They don't have a chance to even heal to get to forgiveness. In Burundi, in Armenia, there's constant Azeri blockade, like it's going on since December. They blockaded the entrance to Artsakh, and 120,000 people are there, malnourished, can't even have bread. They have to wait 20 hours to get a 2 gram of bread. Can you imagine that? So this goes on generationally, because if you don't heal, you're not going to be able to forgive. It's not something like trick that we can jump over healing and get to forgiveness. We can't. We have to heal first. And in some countries, the healing is not happening because there's war after war. Syria, for example. There's war after war. First it was with Israel, then it was with ISIS, then it was with Turkey, then it's with Russia. It's always a war. So those countries and the people in these countries have difficulty in practicing forgiveness. Because as Viktor Frankl says, I'm going to show Viktor Frankl and how I started the journey of forgiveness. I would like your members to please read this book. It's transformative, because although Dr. Frankl went through Auschwitz, the Holocaust, all his family members, including his wife, died, but he came out with a sense of positive meaning, how to create positive meaning, how to forgive people. I took a course with him in 1989, and that's when he told me, when I was talking about the difficulty that the Armenian people, survivors from the 1915 Ottoman Turkish genocide and others are having, and I was pleading to him and I was saying, how should I help them? Because there's still so much pain, so much suffering in the Armenian community. And he, with his heavy Viennese accent, he said to me, you have to help them forgive, just like this. And I was shocked, because I said, how do you forgive something that is denied? Nobody acknowledges. There's world silence around it. And you know what he said? He said, how long do you plan to wait? It was like lights were just going around. I was like, that's right. We're waiting for something and making ourselves helpless. The more we wait, the more angry we get, because we're still not healing. We're waiting in the same traumatized victim place. We have to get out of that place, heal. And I use the steps that we take as an example. So each trauma, you make it your stepping stone. If I was lecturing in a big crowd, I would go on top of the chair now. I would literally go on top of the chair. I'll go on top of this now, the couch. And I would say, see, now I can see things even better than before. I'm seeing things on top of the curtain decorations, the plants, the view, the horizon. But when I was down, all I could see is the dirt on the floor. You see? So each trauma, we use it as a stepping stone to get up from where we were before. We get up like a parachute. We have another trauma. No, we're not a victim. We're a victor. We take another step. Now we are even higher. And something else happens in life. We say, that's another step. I'm going to get even higher. So in this way, we see ourselves as survivors, not victims that we need always somebody to help us, please, or we need somebody to lift us up. No, we can lift ourselves up. After we heal, even Viktor Frankl says, don't jump into forgiveness. You need to heal first. You need to cry. You need to release. You need to share. One of our mottos is, shared sorrow is half sorrow, while shared joy is double joy. So when I smile, I see you smiling, because when I smile to people that have frowns on their face, when they see me smile, they smile too, almost 90% of the time, because laughter and smiling is healing and it's contagious. Just like anger is contagious too. Like if a member of your family is angry on a high level, have an attitude, they're yelling, they're moving things in a very harsh way, just like the gas on the stove. If you forget it, slowly from the kitchen, it goes to the living room, it goes to the dining room, it goes to your bedroom, and everybody is impacted. You may not realize it because it's going slow, slow, slow. You think you're adjusting to it, but no, everybody is going to be inhaling the toxins and therefore being very uncomfortable with it. And emotions are just like that. So we encourage people to share, not to hold in, because we don't have any external drives or USBs or any iCloud storage to put our emotions. We still have to release it one by one. And we give the tool of the emotional intelligence. I will send this to you. It's on our website too, in many languages, like 5-6 languages, so that before it becomes anger, which is the poison of all, we manage our emotions before they get here. You see, all emotions, the arrows are pointing to anger. If we don't manage it, will become poison. So how do we manage? Of course, what I always say is that I wish we had a thermometer for emotions. When we are physically sick, it's easier. You put it in your mouth and say, oh, I have fever, I should go to the doctor, or I should take some extra fluids and etc., take some Tylenol. But when we have emotional distress, we have to scan our body and set it out ourselves, like from 0 to 10, 10 being the most severe level of the emotion. What level am I feeling frustrated today? Anytime it goes above level of 4, I urge your members to stop and do something. I'm going to mention a couple of strategies so that they can do one of these things to bring the level down. Because if you go out of your door and you are already at level 4, now as soon as you go in the car, somebody crosses your car abruptly without signal and you're in shock, that goes all the way up to 7. You get to work, your boss says you're late 2 minutes, and now you're at 10. And what happens? You lash out, lose control with your boss, and then you lose your job. It happened to my other client. He called me on Friday, Doc, I'm sorry, I lost my job. What happened? Exactly how I described it. He was upset from his house. He went to his car, then at work, and he yelled at his boss. We get out of control when we cannot manage our emotions.
You know, I'm listening with all of this, and it totally makes sense. And so, specifically work with the children of alcoholics or addicts, and there's a lot of forgiveness that we always say. You know, in order for you to heal and forgive, it's a very big process. I think that also it's very two-sided, because first you have to deal with your parent, or who is really supposed to be there for you and support you and help you. And then it's there is this, how can you forgive them for what they did to you or what they didn't do to you? And then there's another part of like, how is that you're gonna forgive yourself, actually? Because if somebody thinks that they do not deserve to be healed, they will not do anything. So I think I would like to hear your opinion about what does one need to do to help to heal that hurt that they have somebody else, and then what do you think someone can do to heal really and help forgive themselves?
Right. You mentioned a very important question that everyone asks, because there's the aspect of forgiving your parents, forgiving the conditions that you were in. Let's say if you were from a war-torn country, like I was born in Syria as an Armenian Christian minority, and because of my father is a survivor of the Ottoman Turkish genocide of Armenians. So I had inherited that sadness and anger. I didn't know why. I was like, getting disturbed, like frustrated, and then angry very fast. And my digestive system started compromising. This is before I met Viktor Frankl. And once I met him, and I thought, forgiveness does not mean you're forgiving the act of genocide. You're not forgiving the act of your parents if they abused you or they were under influence of alcohol and drugs and they were not mindful what they are doing to themselves and to you. So forgiveness is, my definition of forgiveness is shifting from the ego reaction. What is the ego reaction? Everybody that I talk with, friends or clients or family, the first knee-jerk reaction is get them back, hit them or hurt them more than they hurt you. That's what our ego wants. But we have to GPS, we gotta manage the ego and tell them, okay, yes, we can destroy and do this and that. What is it going to? What's the outcome? Is it going to help my pain? Is my childhood going to come back if I hurt this or that person? No, it's going to be one additional person being hurt. And two hurt people cannot help one another. Guess why Palestinian-Israeli conflict is not resolving? Guess why Armenian-Turkish issue is not resolving? Because it's continued generational. We have generational trauma. Children inherit this trauma automatically, just like you get diabetes and cardiac issues from your parents. You also inherit these traumas and your reaction, because I didn't go through the genocide, but I had that deep sadness and the anger. Why is the world denying? Because when I was 16, 17, I came to this country. America had not acknowledged it. Biden was the first president to acknowledge the genocide a few years ago. And only 32 countries from 200 country world has acknowledged it. So at that time, my teenage kind of mindset was, wow, why is nobody caring about our people? This made me more angry. But at the end, the anger hurts you, me, the person who's feeling it. Not my enemy, not the people who caused the genocide. No, we are hurt first, and then we hurt our closest people, whoever lives with us, parents, children, spouses, siblings, they all are impacted by it. So the first thing is for us to heal ourselves. So how do we do self-forgiveness? Very important, another book I recommend is very basic book. We have a book on forgiveness. Myself, I have a book, but that's research-based, the next level. For the first people, your members that are interested in the forgiveness, I would propose to start with this one by Robin Kalayjian, because she has, each chapter goes into forgiving your parents, forgiving your sibling, and then self-forgiveness is the most difficult. We are more ready. I've studied this in my clients, as well as my family and friends. We tend to forgive others much faster than we forgive forgive ourselves, because we have high expectations we put on ourselves. So we need to evaluate that. And we need to differentiate what I said earlier. We're not forgiving the act of genocide, incest, child abuse, domestic abuse. No, we're not forgiving any of the acts, because like Jesus said, forgive them, Father, because they know not what they do. Remember that statement? Jesus was the first person who talked about mindfulness. He said, Father, they don't know what they do. They're not mindful. Don't punish them. They're ignorant. He didn't say ignorant. He said they know not what they do, which means they're not mindful. I was like so excited the first time when I studied mindfulness. I said, wow, that's the first time is in the Bible where Jesus said they know not what they do. So we are forgiving the person who didn't know any better.
And I think there's no parents in the world that wakes up in the morning and they think, you know what? I'm going to hurt my kids today. Or
Yes.
I will hurt my spouse today because that's fun to do. You know, that's nobody does that. But I also believe that hurt people hurt others. No happy people will want to hurt others. So obviously it comes from the way they grew up too, and what hurt they received. And like you said, it goes from generation to generation. And somebody listening right now, they can say, well, I don't have anybody from going through this genocide in my family, but there is happening this dynamic in their own, like a family unit that probably also goes through generation to generation, because our parents learn the behavior and the parenting style from their own parents, and the parents, the grandparents. It just keeps on going. And that was one of the things that really helped me to forgive my father, because I realized that he also comes from a household when he didn't get enough what he needed, and he just doesn't know how else to act. And he was an addict because he was trying to help and soothe himself from that pain that he was feeling, and that was just a tool for him to manage that. Not everybody can manage pain. It's very difficult to do. So that was his outlet. And when I started looking at him as not an adult, like an authority that, oh, you're supposed to take care of me because I'm your child. And then I started looking at him as this toddler who also needs love and affection and appreciation. Then I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. And that for me was a very big moment when I really forgive my father. And even if I didn't get those moments in now my life, what I'll be, oh, I wish my father was there. And you know, I had to grieve through the process of, like you mentioned before, of not having a childhood that I wanted. That's lost. But it's still that the forgiveness and all of this, even if it's that part is lost, I still have my father now in my life. I'm very fortunate, and I still can have this time with him. But that itself was a very, very big thing for me to understand that only hurt people hurt others. But it's very hard
Yes.
to do.
I use that in my everyday yoga class when we talk about opening our hearts and sending love to those people who hurt us in the past. And I always ask, why do we send love to people who hurt us? And everybody says, because they are our best teachers. And what have we learned? We learned patience, compassion. We learned what not to do. What doesn't feel good. Yes. And you know, those are, you know, Lolita, I never learned any of this forgiveness and emotional intelligence in schools. And I have 2 doctorates, you know, in this field, in psychology and science, because at the time, everyone was pushing the F word away. They were like, oh, it's not scientific. Go to the church. Go to the
Measure
temple.
that.
Yeah, go to the Bible. This is not scientific. And that was 20 years ago. They almost threw me out of Fordham University because I was doing things that were ahead of the time. And now when you look at the research, you will see thousands of research scientific on this topic itself on forgiveness. And I'm teaching at Columbia University this exact course. I teach forgiveness.
Amazing.
So you see how the time changes, and we, even human evolution, we have to be open to embrace these new ways of looking at things. Yes, they are old concepts, but the tools that we have now are new. Like we have some of your members who have not gone through Holocaust, genocide, or Soviet regime or things like that, but they have gone through, everybody's parents have gone through World War I, World War II, and other wars within each country. And for America, Vietnam, Iraq, I mean, all these veterans are coming back, and there's like suicide every day from the veterans. Why? Because they don't know how to forgive themselves and forgive their government, because they didn't want to be in Iraq. They didn't want to be in Vietnam. They were forced under different propaganda. Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, blah, blah, things like that, propaganda to invade Iraq. So every single person, Lolita, we have gone, I don't want to repeat, over 50 countries and all the states. We have not met one person who has not had trauma, because there are 5 levels of trauma. There's individual trauma, something that you go through. There's the generational trauma, something you inherit from all the wars your parents and ancestors went through. There is the collective trauma. Collective, for example, a pandemic. Collective, for example, if you were in a war-torn country, everybody in your country went through that. It's collective. There is the vicarious, especially for therapists, doctors who work with traumatized people. And when you hear this over and over 8 to 10 times a day, it's very difficult not to carry some of the symptoms with you. Just like a painter, you know, when you're painting the ceiling, the walls, you know, you come home, the paint is something external. You see the specks on your forehead, the lull in your hair, your clothing. You can take your clothing off, shower, and you know that you let your work stuff on the side. But people who work like priests and physicians and psychologists, it's not visible, the emotions. Where did you carry them? In your heart, in your shoulders? Are they hurting? In your back, in your ankles or knees? See, we keep the different negative emotions, certain part in our body. We know what part by the symptoms that you're having. So this is very important to realize. Let me finish the last one, and then I'll talk more. The 5th one is horizontal violence. Now, horizontal violence we see in small cultures that are being discriminated by a bigger governments or cultures. For example, African Americans and Native Americans in USA. For example, women, they've been marginalized in every country. Every country, maybe except Scandinavian countries. So in the African Americans call this the crab in the bucket syndrome. Have you seen crabs in a bucket?
They're not happy for sure.
Yes, yes. Why? One tries to come up, the second crab pulls it down. The third one tries to come out of the pail, bucket, the 4th one pulls it down. Nobody gets out. We do that when we're oppressed by a larger government or other people, then we oppress one another unconsciously. So we have banners in all 7, 8 languages. When we go to these countries to volunteer, we take those and gift them their universities, orphanages, women's centers, so that there will be a reminder not to pull each other down, to uplift one another. So the message is, don't be a crab in the bucket pulling one another down. Be a true human being or humanitarian, lift one another up. So that's what we work on at Meaningful World, to help give tools. You don't need to be psychologist to use these tools. We have this tool, for example, for the emotional every morning checking in. Mm-hmm. We have also the 7-step integrative healing model that you will see on our website, that shares step by step what to do and how to deal with the most difficult emotions. And if your readers get the online version, I think it's $2.99 or something, it has all the handouts here. And after each chapter, they have like affirmations that you can use for the week for that problem. And there are questions for after each chapter. So if you respond to these questions, here, for example, one question, let me share. How has your newly discovered meaning in life helped you with your specific life situation that you just shared about? So positive meaning, what Viktor Frankl says, is our anchor, like the roots. Now, when we went to address Hurricane Andrew in Florida and Hurricane Jorge in Dominican Republic and Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, we found the commonality that the trees that have old and long roots, they withstood all the banging from the hurricane and tornado. But the trees that had short roots, they toppled down very easily. So in order for us to have very deep embedded into Mother Earth roots that would stand us, is to have positive meaning. Why are you here? Like, what is your goal or purpose in life? What are you here to do? Because we're here temporarily, and soon enough, it's going to be our last day. And we need to ensure, like, one way I recommend to my clients and classes, students, is imagine your eulogy. Can you write your eulogy? What would you like to be remembered? What is the most important footprint you want us to celebrate and say, wow, Lolita was so wonderful. She helped change the world in this way. So what is that? And once you find that, each individual, each one of us, we find our deep rooted purpose in life, then we get the hurricane here, tornado there, earthquake, we get up and go and do, because we're looking at the gift at the end of the road, which is our meaning in life. We want to give that meaning before anything happens to our life, before we die. We want to complete that.
And and somebody, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and someone can say, well, I don't want to be anybody big, but the importance that the how we influence just people that we live with every day, that is something that they can remember us by. Like when I have clients and we're dealing about these stresses and all of that, and how they deal with the addictive parents, I always tell them, okay, what is your number one priority right now? And that the number one priority for them is usually their family. You don't have to be this grandeur, thinking about you're going to change the history kind of thing, but just like, what is the most important people in your life? Is your own kids, is your own spouse, is your own partner, whatever. You also should be in that list, taking care of you. And so I love your idea of writing yourself a eulogy. It's like, okay, how do you see your grandkids standing there on the podium and telling everybody what your grandma, grandpa looked like, how they love that. And doesn't have to be grandiose if you don't want to be, but you just can really hone in on the people that you really love, friends and coworkers, because it's amazing how much of an impact we do to other people's lives just by a little smile or frown. It's just amazes me. And if somebody says, "No, I don't think I make any difference in anybody's life," then I always ask a question. Okay, how was your day? Did you see anyone smiling at you? And you're like, "Oh yeah, the coworker, she's always so nice. She always gives me a smile. She always asks me how am I doing." And I'm like, "How that makes you feel after that?" Like, feel great. Well, guess what? She influenced your life, right? Guess what? You can influence the same as other people too. So you don't have to have this grandiose plan of changing the world, but actually the changing the world, actually this starts with you. And like you said, with your attitude, with
Oh,
little
yeah.
things that just can ripple out.
Wonderful, wonderful point. Yes, a lot of people ask me similar things like, yeah, I'm not going to be famous Broadway actor or, ballet dancer, but that may not be your journey anyway. It's maybe they want to be remembered that you healed yourself in spite of all challenges. That's very deep. You know how many people are around us that are still suffering? So just in fact, that's not small. If you can heal yourself, that's a huge achievement, especially coming from parents who are addictive. It's a very, very difficult and challenging life to set limits with addictive parents. Maybe you can say, I was able to set limits with my parents. That's a big thing. So every small thing is a huge, huge contribution when you put it next to each other in a collective community. So it's not measured by the quantity, it's the quality. And it starts within, it starts with us. So that's why when we do our yoga soul surfing class, we always send love to the people who hurt us, because as you mentioned it so well, I repeated every class, hurt people hurt others. They have, like, if there is a well of love inside our hearts, they don't have that because they never saw that kind of love. So what they see is what they're going to repeat. In order to shift mentally is to make a commitment that I'm going to be independent and a healthy person. I'm not going to follow my parents if they were abusive, addictive, or whatever the issue was. I'm going to do these things healthier than what I experienced. So always using I. So being careful that when we point to parents or siblings or other people, we have to be mindful how many fingers pointing towards us, because ultimately we are in control of our emotions. Like the GPS can guide us, but if we keep taking the wrong direction, it's already up to us. We are the managers, the captains, and the pilot in our life, and we need to practice that and be able to go into it very, very honestly, like not covering up, sugarcoating things, being honest with your emotions, and then releasing. Because if we don't release, then other parts of our body is going to be weakened, compromised, and then ultimately gives up. Our knees, our back, our shoulders, whatever area, our heart, things start malfunctioning. So first is healing, then forgiving. And we're not forgiving the act, we're only forgiving because people were not mindful. And we're going to be extra mindful that we don't do that to others. So in that way, we did a big thing because we shifted. The usual thing is generationally passed on. You do the same as your parents, you go on and on and on. It goes through 7 generations. Native Americans have said this 100 years ago. And finally, now the research is put the stamp on it. Yes,
Wow.
sometimes it could even go to 14 generations if we're not mindful. So my call is for us to start the healing process, to continue the healing process if you have already started, and always focusing on yourself. So if someone frustrates you, as the research shows, if you felt frustrated, you have to look in your own life and say, I would say to myself, Ani, what part of your own individual self are you frustrated about that this thing is bothering you so much? What is it within me that's frustrating, that I'm letting that person affect me so much? So it is back into me. What is it about me? What I'm going through, what I'm expecting, and what I'm maybe assuming. Of course, it's best not to assume, and it's best not to react. So one of the ways that the anger is perpetuated is because we let the ego go for it and we kick back, and then the chain doesn't stop. They kick us, we kick them, and it goes generation to generation. How many tribes in Congo, in Burundi, in Rwanda, a whole genocide happened because of the 2 tribes that went against one another. In Sierra Leone, 10 years of war, brother against brother. These are all signs for us to awaken and focus on self-healing. Because pointing finger, it only makes us more helpless. And when we are helpless, we react. And when we react, we're not authentic because we're waiting for the other person, and the other person pushes our button and we scream, then pulls a string and we cry or we laugh. Then you're not authentic. When you're not authentic, then there is no hope for that. Then we can hurt other people and not be mindful. So I call upon everyone to take the first step or continue the step of self-healing, and then forgiveness becomes very normal, almost like the icing over the cake. That would go naturally. Of course, who wants to keep that revenge? Because revenge makes you sick by itself. That even the thought of it, even though there is a saying, I think it was Gandhi, I have to double check, besides saying that there was a saying, the best revenge is to forgive. I would not put the revenge there because that already takes my mind to reaction and hitting back. No, that's not good. The best healthy choice is to forgive for my heart. That's a better way of saying, because I own my issue and I own the remedy too. If I heal, my heart is going to feel better. I'm going to sleep much more peacefully at night. My digestive system is going to have no problems. So it's a win-win situation. And when I help someone else, and we both become stronger, as we say at Meaningful World, when one helps another, both of us become stronger. It's not like, oh, I'm giving you assistance. No, because in that relationship, I become also stronger, learning something about your dynamics. So it's all a win-win situation when we put our heart in our own self-healing and always mindful to do the best, more better than our parents. because they did the best they could. I always believe that, like you said, they never think the worst parents that I met, they just didn't know how to discipline. And they always also tell me, even like last week, one of the 45-year-old fathers said, "Oh, I got some whipping. It didn't kill me. I'm great." He got some belt whipping from his father, and he was justifying. I said, well, we have words now. Our educational system and our disciplining system has improved. Before, they didn't have those tools. I mean, not just my parents. I met a lot of people saying that their parents from Africa, Middle East, and some parts of Italy and Europe, they would try to catch you doing something wrong, so they would reprimand you in front of other people. But now, parents try not to do that, right? Because they learn that it's better to talk with your child or someone else in a private place, so they're not humiliated in front of other people. You know, you don't need to get the whole neighborhood involved. But before that, they were not mindful of these sensitive things. It says, oh, nothing is wrong. A lot of comedians also use that too. Oh, I got some whooping and beating, but I turned out normal. They try to justify. But I think using words and communication is much better.
That's great answer. So
What
I
happens?
know it's hear there's some when we talk about helping and forgiving other people, I think it's easier because you can say, okay, they didn't know any better, because you do not take the hurt personally. You stop taking the hurt personally. What would you say someone who has difficulty of forgiving themselves, you know, like this, constantly beating yourself up because, oh, I should not let them do this to me, you know, or like, oh, I did this wrong. And you have anything to say about someone who needs to start the journey to forgive themselves?
It sounds like they need to do some self-healing first before they get to forgiveness. A lot of people, they kind of jump kind of quickly to try to forgive. I think they need to spend a little more time in focusing on their own emotions, what is still remaining from the other person that is still feeling hurtful, still feeling sad, or still feeling disappointment or guilt or embarrassment, identifying the emotion and then writing about it. They can journal it if they don't have a therapist or a coach. They can also, we have free support groups, or people can join on Zoom every Thursday at 12 noon EST, New York time. And it's 1 hour, and we use our 7-step model. So it's a wonderful place to come and really release your stuff, like a lunch break or a breakfast break for you. You're a little, you have different time zone. So it's very important to have also the witnesses, you know, the group, the rest of the people are listening, paying attention, empathizing with you. That empathy is a healer. Harry Stack Sullivan said that this was 1953. He said, you cannot heal from trauma before you can really receive that validation, empathy. And even if possible, he talks about reparation. Now, Judaism and Muslim cultures, they also demand that. In Quran and you know, in Judaism, they say clearly that the person has to say, I'm sorry, I did this wrong to you. I promise not to do this again. And whatever it is they broke or hurt, if there's monetary thing, they have to pay reparation. And then you're forgiven. It's not like Christianity, where it's no conditions. You just have to make a commitment and understand that the other person was not mindful, and you then can easily get into forgiveness if you have healed. If you're still bleeding, you cannot jump into forgiveness. I say emotional bleeding when we are still hurting. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't see the blood because it's emotional. We tend to smile and carry on.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what the person is going through.
And that just reminds us to be careful and care about other people and have compassion to those even who's speeding in the middle of the road. You know, like before, it will really get me upset. Like, wow, why is they speeding? We take so many things personally, and then when they came to conclusion, I'm like, you don't know what happened to them. You know, when something happens in the situation, when somebody looks like they are acting out, and now I ask myself, what happened to them? Because you know they somebody rushing on the street, they could be, maybe their wife is giving a birth, maybe somebody died, maybe they need to use the restroom, maybe there is a reason, and even if there is no reason, they feel like they need to drive fast. It's like, okay, let them do it. So when we have you and compassion to little things, and that's what the forgiveness towards others and yourself come, and that, you know, will be such a better place.
I'm glad you mentioned the road rage part. So we are in Guatemala, and this road rage on a mission, volunteer mission, and everybody is like, "Oh, can you believe that? Why did he do that? Why did he cut me off? Why is he going fast? Why he didn't put his signals?" And after a day, I said, "Listen," and they honk. They keep honking. So the person who's not honking gets into rage. And here we are in this little car. You're the one who's in rage. We're the one feeling the rage. The other car is gone already. In another avenue, in another lane, in another city. He's still screaming. And I said, listen, the guy is already gone. And I don't want to continue with this kind of negativity. Why don't we do this? When they honk you, you say, oh, that's wonderful. Your horn is working. Now try your windshield wiper. I say that all the time. It calms me down. So then they started and they were laughing hysterically. Then anger and frustration turned into like fun. And they couldn't wait for the next person to honk. They were like, oh, try your windshield wipers.
You changed the point of view about that. The attitude itself changing in any situation just makes things so much better if you really put your mind and intention to that.
Exactly. That's the point. We cannot change other people. Plus, they don't even hear you. Here you are, you're ripping yourself, and he was getting red. Even he's dark, but you see he's getting purple. And this, you know, like when he's talking, like sprinkles of the anger coming out. And it's just there. We do that in life without realizing. So to be mindful of what we can change and what changes us, that's the most important thing. Because definitely changing others, it's not in our job description in this world. Even as a therapist, I'm telling this myself. And I tell them when they congratulate me that I helped them, and I said, it's you're the one. It's only 45 minutes a session. You're the one living the rest of the week in a model behavior, practicing all the tools that you're learning. Kudos to you. I can't take credit for that because you have to implement it. It's not in the head, it's in the heart. And that's what we also focus on at Meaningful World, is what Descartes says, that educating the mind without educating the heart is not education. Because how many times the research shows that IQ, you can be very, very intelligent and high IQ. But when your EQ, emotional intelligence, is not mature, then you're going to take that intelligence. Like, you know, there were some serial killers were going from state to state, and people, the police and the FBI, were having difficulty to find him. He went from Boston all the way down to Texas. Each state, he was killing women with certain kind of a car, killing them. And, you know, at least 60 or 70 women were killed before they found him, because he was graduate high IQ and graduate of, I'm not sure, Yale or Harvard or some, you know, elite school. But he didn't have the emotional maturity. So he put that intelligence into wrong path. Yes. We
Well,
have to always
sorry.
mindful.
So that's a very good point to always to start with anything is about mindful. So
Yeah.
we kind of close to already over an hour of conversation. So I really so happy that you found the time to tell me all about this. And also, there is a specific place you want anyone to go and find the books? Of course, they're on Amazon and
MeaningfulWorld.com. You will have other handouts and wonderful publications. We have over 100 research publications, and almost half of it is on the website. And also info at Meaningful World, if your members would like to keep in touch and join our next support group on Thursday. Or just be on our list to receive the handouts and events that are on Zoom, they can definitely send an email to info@meaningfulworld with their name, and we'll follow up with them. Yes, it's been a delight. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.